Welcome back to Formula One Bet. My name is Noah Mosley, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so, please like, comment, and subscribe down below. In this video, we will be previewing the odds for the 2024 Formula One Miami Grand Prix weekend. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. Starting off, I am so sorry I was not able to put out the 2024 recap video for the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. Kind of had some stuff going on personally, but everything is all right. But essentially, I just wanted to do a quick recap for the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. So the sprint qualifying was fantastic. We got a little bit of rain, which added a bit of action to the Grand Prix and mixed up the order for the sprint itself. And then also looking at the sprint, had Lando starting on pole position. I was very confident, him going into the sprint. I thought he was going to get one of his first victories in Formula One, but we saw Lewis Hamilton push him off, cause a bit of drama there. And then also we saw the incident with Lance Stroll and the whole safety car incident with Daniel Ricciardo throughout the weekend. We obviously saw Max Verstappen dominate once again in the sprint and in qualifying, as well as the actual Grand Prix itself. Kind of saw that one coming, but overall, the Chinese Grand Prix weekend, and with it being a sprint weekend, I thought was very successful. Pulled a very decent crowd, and it was pretty cool to see Zhou Guanyu have his moment, even though his seat was definitely taken over by Nico Hülkenberg several days after the Chinese Grand Prix had wrapped up there. So, alrighty, so some other news coming out of Formula One between the Chinese Grand Prix and the Miami Grand Prix was we had heard news that Adrian Newey is set to leave Red Bull. Now, this is due to several accusations within the team, and Adrian Newey not agreeing with some of the leadership decisions that are being made there. And I think that this is the possible connection that Adrian Newey has been looking for to team up with Lewis Hamilton. There's a lot of speculation that he will want to make this happen. Or we could see a surprise with him jumping over to Aston Martin, with seeing their development and trying to also work with Fernando Alonso. I don't see him jumping back to McLaren, as he was there for several years, and he's kind of been there, done that, which is so disappointing. As being a McLaren fan, I would love to have Adrian Newey back, but I just don't see him coming back. So it will be interesting to see where he finally ends up hopping to, but I know that they said that he wasn't necessarily going to be available until 2027 after his grooming year in 2026. So it will be interesting to see where he decides to go and when he will actually be available to design the cars for the team he decides to jump to. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Already continuing on, this is one of 3 home races for Logan Sargent, and in fact this is probably his race that probably hits closest to home, just because he is from Florida itself, and so he will have a lot of passion to do well, especially because his performances this year has not been sufficient or up to the level that I believe it needs to be. I think that the car isn't nearly as strong this year as it was last year, but with that being said, I think that Logan is definitely underperforming in the car, and it hurts me to say that with being an American, and I would love to keep an American on the grid as much as possible, but we definitely need to see him getting out of Q3, especially in the upcoming performances. So I think Logan needs to have a big weekend coming out of the Miami Grand Prix. If not, I think that his seat is definitely already at risk. But if he doesn't have a good weekend coming out of his home Grand Prix, I feel like we might hear an announcement in the coming weeks of his seat being replaced in the coming years. So hopefully Logan will be able to get out of the slump, and we'll see a solid performance out of him this weekend. Now, with looking at the track itself, it is composed of 19 corners, which I believe it has a pretty good mixture of straights, along with some medium speed, low speed, and some high speed corners. I believe that it will provide a lot of good of overtaking action, as it has before in the past. And I think that it being a sprint weekend here, being back to back, is definitely interesting. I'm wondering how the drivers will definitely take it being a back-to-back sprint weekend. But I will say that, I think that Miami works great here. It's a track that truly tests the drivers, as it is a pretty tricky track. But with that being said, I think that we'll be in good hands for the races this weekend in regards to getting some good on-track action. As I previously stated, that this is a sprint weekend, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and follow the same format as I did with my previous video with the Chinese Grand Prix, and so I'll probably keep the same format looking ahead for all of the future sprint weekends as well. So going ahead and getting into it, so who I have to take the sprint shootout for the 2024 Miami Grand Prix weekend is McLaren. So McLaren is actually set over on DraftKings at plus 1,200 odds to take the sprint shootout, and this is going to kind of follow my theme throughout the weekend. McLaren is banking on bringing a pretty big upgrade package to this Grand Prix, and I think that they were not expecting to be as strong in China as they were, and we definitely saw the strength of McLaren's pace in the actual Grand Prix itself, as Lando was able to hold off Checo. And I thought that, with Lando capturing the P2 in China without the upgrade package, just continue to develop their progression with the car, and I think that they do get pretty close to Red Bull this weekend, and I think that they will give possible Max Verstappen a challenge, and so it's something that we'll definitely have to keep an eye on, and if they are going to ruffle some feathers, it will definitely be in the start of the weekend at the sprint shootout. So go ahead and lock them in to potentially win this shootout, and you have literally 2 shots at it, and plus 1,200 odds, so pretty good odds there. So go ahead, lock it in. Alrighty, and who I went ahead and locked in to win the sprint race for the 2024 Miami Grand Prix weekend is Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis Hamilton is at plus 4,000 odds over on ESPN Bet, and Lewis actually had a great sprint race back in China, and I think that if he can qualify in the upwards positions as he did in the last sprint qualifying, I think that he definitely has the capabilities of taking the sprint race win. And Mercedes as well are coming to this weekend with some upgrades, so hopefully to develop their car to get it back up towards the front of the grid, along with Ferrari and Red Bull and McLaren and Aston Martin. And you have just seen over the several weekends that their car hasn't been up to the level of all of the other teams, and so I think if they are able to develop their car, we'll see the performances stick for Lewis and George. And so I think if Lewis is able to carry the same momentum that he had in the sprint qualifying in China, he'll be able to carry it over here in Miami, and hopefully surprise some people and be back on that top position on the podium. So go ahead, lock in Lewis Hamilton. Alrighty, now moving over to qualifying, who I have for my potential lock to take pole position for the 2024 Miami Grand Prix is Lando Norris. Now, Lando is sitting at plus 1,800 odds over on FanDuel, and I think that this is a pretty good bet just because Lando has been that second qualifier almost week after week, and we've seen, in our track that McLaren necessarily wasn't supposed to be strong at, and, we were able to see him build up his qualifying pace throughout the weekend. It really wasn't anything spectacular in the sprint qualifying just due to the weather coming down, but he was able to stick it on pole and, put up an impressive lap on a wet track. And so hopefully he will be able to win out pole outright on a dry track, and hopefully put it up there within the front row and give him a chance to go ahead and fend off Max Verstappen for the race. So go ahead and lock in Lando Norris for your potential lock to take pole position. And who I have for my best bet to go ahead and take pole position for the 2024 Miami Grand Prix is Max Verstappen. Now, Max Verstappen is sitting at minus 330 odds over on FanDuel, and no surprise here, Max has continued to dominate all of the qualifying sessions throughout this entire year. Set aside the one session with Lando Norris and the weather in China last couple of weeks. But besides that, he has continued to dominate all qualifying positions, and I don't see any difference in this weekend unless McLaren is able to pull out a surprise with their upgrades and put their car ahead performance-wise of Red Bull. But I still think it's a long shot to see it actually happen, but you never know. So I would say go ahead, lock in Max Verstappen as your best bet to take pole position. Alrighty, and who I have for my potential lock to win the 2024 Miami Grand Prix is Lando Norris. Now, Lando is sitting at plus 2,000 odds over on Bet365, Hard Rock Bet, and FanDuel, and I am sticking with the theme of McLaren this weekend. I think that their upgrade package will be enough to put Lando over the hump and hopefully be able to give Lando a car to challenge Max Verstappen on outright. And I think that hopefully, with the performance that Lando had in China really showed me a lot of maturity with Lando, and I think that he is going to be able to get the job done sometime this season. Hopefully it will be in Miami. If not, I'm hoping to see a lot of progress, maybe get a bit closer to Max, maybe keep him within 5 seconds of the lead the entire race. That would be exciting to see. And so I think that we will need Lando to have a perfect weekend, have no mental mistakes, and if he is able to do that, and we are expecting the performance as out of McLaren, I think we're in for a special treat coming into Sunday. So go ahead, lock them in for your potential lock to win the Miami Grand Prix. Alrighty, and who I have for my best bet to win the 2024 Miami Grand Prix is Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is sitting at minus 550 odds over on FanDuel, and not going to beat the dead horse. Max Verstappen has continued to dominate this season and show that he is going to strive for his 4th World Drivers' Championship, and as of right now, he is on par to go ahead and complete that check mark off of his list and be, on the Mount Rushmore of drivers already, and so I think there's a lot being said about Max, and we are just living in a great time of, of Senna and Schumacher, and, Verstappen is going to be one of those main time names that, everybody's going to look back on and say, okay, yeah, he is an all-time driver. And so, no surprises here. Unless, like I said, McLaren or Ferrari are able to show some type of pace to match their car, there's nobody touching him. And I feel like this is a track he is very strong on. He even came back from, I think it was P9, and still won the race outright, with overtaking people like it was nothing. And so hopefully we will get a bit more of competition throughout the field. But go ahead and lock them in for your best bet to win the Miami Grand Prix. Alrighty, guys, that's all I had, and also I just wanted to notify everybody as the summer kicks on, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to release out videos just as much as I was previously, just because the schedule is getting a bit more filled up. So I might just do the recaps in my preview just at the start, kind of like what I did previously, but might do a little bit more in depth as the season goes on, but I'll just play around with it and kind of see what works. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of the support. If you could please like or comment down below, I would greatly appreciate it. With that being said, looking ahead, we will have, after the Miami Grand Prix, looking at Imola, which is back in Italy, so one of the great Grand Prix there. Just a lot of history with that type of track there, and in fact we actually did not race there last year due to the heavy floods that were sustained in that area, so it will be pretty interesting to go ahead and race there at that track. But looking ahead to the Miami Grand Prix this weekend. And with that being said, thank you again for watching. And as always, happy racing.